All right, guys, welcome back to the Golf Podcast. We've got Patrick Reed, possible another lawsuit.
Suing again.
We've got Rory, made, some people not exactly happy with one of his decisions with the RBC this past week.
No, I wonder how he feels about it. Has he come out yet? We will find out at the next major. I'm sure the next big event, they're going to pepper him with those.
I'm sure he's going to get hit because I haven't seen the exact reason he missed it. But before we dig into all that, have you seen what's been going on in the world of the long drive?
The back and forth.
I love it. The record setting. It's incredible. So
Can't take your eyes off it.
If you've missed it, don't worry, because we're going to bring you up to speed right now. But long story short, you've got the big names, which have been Kyle Berkshire, Martin Borgmeier, Martin, who we had on the show, I think it was just a couple months ago.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Just really incredible athletes and what they're able to do. But then we've got a new guy who kind of came out of nowhere and shook things up.
Mm-hmm.
But let's fill you in a little bit here because these two, especially Kyle and Martin, were just in a good way, good competition, just driving each other and just they're wanting to one up each other has caused the world record in ball speed to be broken at an unbelievable pace.
Yeah.
So here, let's take you guys back for anybody who's missed this because you're going to want to follow this going forward. The story does not end here. I'm sure that these guys are going to continue on and pushing each other, and I'm very interested to see where the limit is.
Yeah, how much more can they take it? Right.
Because these guys are absolutely pushing their bodies to the limit. In fact, we had last week on the show, we had Dr. Troy Van Biezen, even talking about from the PGA Tour side, what they're doing over there, which we're still seeing some incredible ball speed, nothing like this. But he was telling us about the strain that it puts on the body and how it requires a lot of like building up the base in order to support that. He talked about the wrist. He talked about the lumbar spine. Go back and check out last week's episode if you missed it, because it was a fantastic interview and really a lot of insight there. But going back last year, Kyle Berkshire pretty much it was a one-man show when it came to ball speed. So much as that, I'm sure Martin and some of the other guys were driving him to keep pushing himself, but he kept breaking his own record. So going way back, February 17th of last year, Kyle sets the record of 234.4 miles an hour in ball speed, right?
Uh-huh.
In August, he breaks his own record with 236 miles an hour. And then he breaks it again December 16th, 2022, 236.2 miles an hour. So Kyle's just kind of pushing himself. Now, for perspective, for anybody who doesn't watch long drive regularly, the guys on tour, the best, the longest hitters on tour are getting ball speed in somewhere in around the 180s.
Yeah, 170s to 180s. Yep.
Yeah. Now, they are using different equipment in long drive. Right. They're using longer than regulation shafts and stuff. They have their own set of rules that they operate by. But it's not so different that you can't use it as a little bit of a perspective. These guys are still driving the same golf ball.
True.
It's just a little bit of a longer shaft. Most of them are using the same heads.
And I also think they're swinging a lot more freely than a guy who wants to keep the ball in play.
Of course. They are definitely swinging more freely. But when I say like comparing equipment wise,
you're right.
Really the only difference for the most part are the shafts that they're using. So Kyle comes out. This is March 31st of this year. He breaks his own record again, 236.8 miles an hour. Now, if you notice here, they're just ticking up by like less than 1 full mile an hour. 236 mile an hour. We've got a video of this one. Just incredible. Like, look at this and see the force that he's putting into it.
I love how they kick that front leg all the way out and bring it back like that. I'm going to start playing golf like that, I think.
Dude, what brought this into perspective for me is if you watch those numbers, the ball speed is ridiculous, but look at the club speed.
Yeah.
We're starting to get into a club speed of the 160s.
Oh my God.
Now, my best drive, I'm getting 160 ball speed.
Yeah.
Ball speed.
Now,
if you think about like a smash factor 1.5, it's just you're taking the club head speed and multiplying it by 1.5 times. These guys are getting club speed like that. Not only that, they're doing it multiple times. So this is like a one-hit wonder. Over a 40 swing spread, Kyle, in that session, averaged 160.6 club head speed.
Jeez. Just to keep that up, man, that's got to be painful.
And we're going to talk in a second about Martin, who tried to set a world record, an endurance record. Like the amount of times that they do this is incredible. So then Martin Borgmeyer enters the chat
Yep.
on April 2nd, and he breaks it astonishingly here. 239.3. 239.3. Remember, we were ticking up by half mile an hour. He just jumped up by 3 mile an hour ball speed. And you can see in his reaction there how that must have felt for him. Because now it's like, forget it. Like he thinks, I just beat Kyle's record by 3. This has got to stand.
It's got to.
You would think.
Absolutely.
It didn't. Kyle comes back the next day, 239.7 mile an hour. 239.7. Look at this.
Oh, he gave it all there.
Incredible. Look at the club speed, 165.8 the next day. Now, these guys are such competitors. I would guarantee Kyle was in that simulator all day until he hit it.
All day.
But this is what I mean about driving each other. I'm thinking about, like, this is the best thing to me in sport is when you have multiple guys, not just one dominant, multiple guys. I think back at, like, Jack and Arnie playing and pushing each other. Or think about, like, what Phil did to push Tiger.
Yeah, totally.
All those years. Or Maris and Mantle.
Yeah. If you go back there, absolutely.
Right? And that amazing summer when they were both chasing the home run record.
Absolutely.
You just think, like, if one guy didn't have the other guy to feed on, would we see the same records that we see? This pushes them. But now
we've got a third player.
We've got a third player who comes out of nowhere. Now, he's not been in the sport nearly as long. This is Seb Twaddell. Comes from the clouds on this one and just breaks the record again.
Now, this was after that.
This is after. This is April 7th. So this is just a few days after Kyle reclaimed his record. Seb comes in 240.8 mile per hour ball speed. Look at this guy. Cracks 170 club speed. He gets 169.6 club speed.
Look at the double whip here.
Look at this.
Whoa.
Look when that club gets into his backswing, the amount of bend on that shaft. And trust me, these guys are not playing super, super whippy shafts. It was actually a cool insight. We had Martin on the show and he said, you'd be surprised. It's not like they're playing super extra stiff.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes for them, a little extra whip, but they've got to time it just perfectly.
They got to smack it right face on. Did you see that club speed on that one? 169?
169. So he almost hit 170. Now, some perspective, Seb, and you could tell from that video, he's a big guy.
Double world record, by the way. He broke the ball speed and the club speed record in one swing.
Look at his thighs are like trunks, man.
He's 6'7".
Yeah, 6'7". He's
now we know
beast.
Martin is tall, Kyle is tall, but 6'7". What does he weigh, Zach? Did it say on there? He weighs like 2 something.
I saw an article that he weighs. It's either 230 or 250. Either way, he's a big boy.
Big boy.
But there's not much fat on that body.
No,
did you see that stat though? He said 13 months in the sport and we're just getting started. So he's only been doing this for 13 months.
Right. That's the thing. Like, it's like really coming. He's just over a year into long drive, and he came out with that. But what I'm saying is, like, follow these guys on social media because it is electric. The drama.
It's fun.
Just seeing these guys go back and forth and just one-upping each other. And I am excited and I think this brings great publicity for the World Long Drive Championship.
Yep, totally.
Which was great last year when Martin won it because you had Bryson in there.
Yeah, it was enjoyable to watch.
Now these guys all showing up, and I want to see what they're going to end up doing.
And it shows that there's a lot of interest in the sport because if you go to Seb's Instagram, he has like 2.2 million views on him breaking the double record.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are hungry for this long drive content.
Totally. I agree with that.
I think the sport is just as golf itself, the sport, and I do consider it a slightly different sport. And even having Martin on, I remember him talking about it. He's saying, I didn't want Bryson to win because Bryson's a golfer. You know, he plays excellent golf as well.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen him play on the course. But he doesn't think of it as golf. It's like its own, to them, it's its own animal.
Sure,
Long drive is its own sport to them.
Right.
But it's just incredible what's going on in the sport. And I think it's something we can all kind of take away and learn from the physicality, what they're doing as far as how they're learning to maximize their body, maximize ground forces. I don't remember the exact thing, so don't quote me on this, but I remember speaking with one of the instructors when we were doing the swing cat, which measures your ground forces. And he said some of the long drive guys are putting like something like 4 to 6 times their body weight in force into the ground. These guys are putting 1,000 pounds into the ground, and that ground pushes back equally.
Yeah.
Simple physics. I mean, that's how these guys drive that ball. But if that wasn't impressive enough, because you think, okay, I could muster up like enough to swing hard once, right? The amount of times they do this. So this is another thing. Martin Borgmeyer recently went after the world record for most balls over 300 yards in an hour, right? Most balls over. So now think, first of all, visualize yourself pumping 300-yard drives. The record was set in 2016. Lynn Ray set this out at Riverwalk Golf Club in San Diego, California. He hit 459 balls over 300 yards in an hour.
469?
459.
I'm just doing some calculations here.
So
wow, that's almost 8 balls a minute.
Over 300.
Over 300.
Over 300. Now you got to think endurance and stuff. Those last couple.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Martin goes out to
But
try
300
to
is
break
probably
the
just a
record.
soft poke for them. If you think about it.
Well,
they could swing their 80%.
I'm
not taking anything away from 300 yards.
You'd think they could.
Because I cannot do it.
But endurance-wise and also, like I said, keeping the ball like going straight.
Right.
You can lose a lot of yardage if you're just spraying them because you're just smacking it. Like there has to be some technique to it. So Martin goes out there to try to break it, right? And if you haven't seen the video, watch the full video. He did this with the DP World Tour. And it's just...
Oh, there's a video on this.
Oh, yeah. There's a.
I thought it was just the news about it. I have to watch this.
No, you have to watch this video. It's a 10-minute video.
Okay.
And you're just watching. He's working alongside of a guy who's teeing the ball up for him. And he would hit about 20 to 30 in a row, take a second breather, and just ask how many were over 300 to see where he's at.
Wow.
But like he's doing this for an hour.
Yeah.
Running at full steam. This is gonna blow your mind. This is how many golf balls he hit in an hour. 630.
So he hit more than 8 a minute. Wow.
He hit 630. Unfortunately, he fell just short of the record. 401 of those went over 300 yards.
Wow.
401. The thing I see from this, that record's not going to stand the 459 because if these guys can still follow this pattern, he's going to do it again. The only thing is that is something that these guys, this is their livelihood in their career. I would think that and Martin was when we had him on, he was very smart about talking about how he works with his team and his doctors and all that stuff.
Right.
Because going back to what Troy said, what that strain that puts on the wrists and the forearms, I can only imagine that much because their training sessions can't look like that. They're not putting 600 balls in an hour. So I can only imagine they've only got so much in the tank to do that every so often, but getting that close, I'm calling it right now. I think Martin goes for it again. I think Martin beats it.
I think so. I think strategy for that is just baby cuts. Just baby cut, tee it up, baby cut.
Sure, casual 300-yard baby cut.
305, 308, 310, 312, just cut.
Well, if you watch the video, he's not babying anything.
Yeah, I bet.
I think this guy's got one speed, and it's full.
I was going to ask, was he going full bore on all these things?
He was.
Okay.
Dude. He was.
We're watching that
full. His full rip it swing he was doing, and just like he would rip one ball in the tee, rip one. So anyway, go watch it. It's worth a watch, but just incredible. So that's our PSA that if you're not following this, follow along. You're up to speed now. The current record is held by Sebs Stats. 240.8 mile per hour ball speed, 169.6 club speed. Watch those guys. And you never know. There's a lot of guys who compete in that world long drive. Somebody else might come out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's true.
But
some rando out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I think that they should use the 1 hour, how many you can hit over 300 yards. And I think that should be like the long drive competitions.
Yeah.
I think give all the guys an hour. Have 5 or 6 of them lined up with unlimited
It'd be a
balls.
cool little, like side event.
It would be so cool, and I think so many more people would enjoy watching that than just them hitting the long balls. Take an average, and whoever hits the furthest average over an hour, like I think that would be a really, really cool event, and especially with all these guys that are constantly breaking the record.
Yeah.
I think that would be the number one way to grow long drive, because the
For us
amount of
as
fire
spectators.
coming out of that would be amazing.
Oh, absolutely. Especially like I said, when you watch this video with him where he's like on the ground.
Yeah.
But for the spectators, just I don't know how much the guys would agree to that
Yeah.
because injuries
I know.
do come in. That's a lot. 600,
Right.
balls in an hour is a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah, how do these guys recover from that? Do you
Exactly.
think
Ice
Martin
bath.
just jumped in an ice bath and like slept in it overnight?
You think you do. Freeze your body.
For real.
Freeze everything. Come back
but
out.
I know even like Kyle, I think he struggle with an injury last year. I can't see a guy like Kyle
wrist,
going
I
for
think.
that. Yeah, I think because of the injury. But
I think
he's
their
healthy
backs
again,
are fine.
he might do it.
I think it's their wrist of the things that are in
Yeah,
question.
you realize the force you put on that? Anyway, let's move on to the next thing because I also want to talk about this whole thing with Patrick Reed.
Yeah,
Right.
what's Patty up to these days?
So to bring you up to speed, what happened was the DP World Tour and this live thing, it's not going away anytime soon with this back and forth drama. So if you think it is, trust me, it's not, because there's too many tours involved. There's too many other things like that. And this was specifically not only the ruling was tough, and I'm going to pull up the article here now, which got the full article on Golficity today. But back when, if you remember, the DP World Tour had issued a bunch of the guys fines for competing in another tour, which was Live.
Right.
They had issued, I think it was $100,000 fines to all the guys. So all the Live guys sued the DP World Tour and pushed back on it. It ended up going to arbitration, and they lost that case in arbitration.
Okay.
Basically, the decision means that the European Tour, which is the DP World Tour, has the right to sanction players who play in conflicting events without their permission. It's another way it kind of shows that these tours kind of own these guys.
Exactly.
You know? But where it really kind of rubbed Reed and some of the other guys the wrong way is, I guess the decision was made about 2 months ago in arbitration, but it wasn't announced until the first day of the Masters. So it rubbed them the wrong way that, did you hang on to this purposely to kind of, throw us for a loop at the Masters, or to put that damper, because it was a news story, a big news story that ran that week.
And who decides to put it out that week? Is it the lawyers? Is it the PGA Tour? Is it the DP World Tour?
I guess
who's putting that out?
I guess it's
so
the
strategically.
the arbitration. So the arbitration, let me see here. It was done by it's a group called Sports Resolutions. They're a UK based arbitration panel made up of 3 retired judges. And I guess it was a sealed ruling until they unsealed it. And I guess the Live guys had heard about it, I think the day before, like the night before the Masters, and then it rolled out. So he thought it was like some sort of like a motivated dig to saying it wasn't coincidental. It was planned. This is what Reed was saying. He said, I believe it was planned because they did it the first day of the Masters. So when he was asked here, Reed, he was asked if they were wrong, and basically, let me see the exact thing because I don't want to trip this up. He had said, Reed was asked, would he be considering further legal action based on when it was announced, stuff like that? He said, yes, I am. I will always and have always planned to play as a proud member of the DP World Tour. Currently, I would be in around the top 8 in the Race to Dubai rankings if my name was included in the season's published list. So it looks like Reed, at least, is one of the guys who's willing to keep fighting this.
Okay.
And is going to continue to pursue legal action until he feels like he gets his resolution, which I believe would be
Why
to
not
play
just
on the
let it
tour.
go?
Well,
At this
his
point,
argument is that, right. Well, I guess you can make both sides. You could say, if your argument to join Live was that you wanted to play less golf.
Yep.
That's what these guys said. Play less golf, be home with the families more. They're making the big bucks on Live. They don't need to supplement their income elsewhere. Right?
Right.
That could be one camp says, if that's your argument, then yes, why do you continue to fight the DP World Tour to play over there, or fight the PGA Tour to play over there? I get it. There's other people who might say, well, these guys are competitors. They're going to want to play other places. They're going to want to chase the big money. That's still out there on the table.
It could be a recurring problem.
But the other one is the big elephant in the room. Now, this wouldn't be for Reed. This would be for the European guys. But in order to qualify for the Ryder Cup, you have to be this is on the European team. You have to be European and you have to be a member of the DP World Tour. If you are and you qualify through one of the 6 spots, you'll be on the Ryder Cup. So there are going to be guys who are going to be fighting to get those Ryder Cup spots. So what I'm saying is, like, this is not going away. Look for a whole lot of live debate when we get closer to the end of the year when the Ryder Cup comes back around, because although we've seen the majors all not exempt them,
Right.
there's going to be qualifying things and stuff like that, and it's going to get muddy and messy, I think, on both sides.
And it also is interesting about the Ryder Cup because Brooks Koepka
I was just about to look that up. He got points,
Ryder Cup
right?
points for his finish at the Masters, and Phil as well, and
Right.
Reed, and like all these guys are getting Ryder Cup points that they haven't been getting
Right.
while on live. And if you're going to go to the Ryder Cup without Brooks Koepka, like
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Well, then
So
that goes
they got to
to-
figure something out for the Ryder Cup and live, and they
Well,
got to
that goes
figure it
back
out.
to what you were
Koepka's
saying.
17th on the list.
Well,
the
that
Ryder
goes back
Cup.
to what you were saying. Like, why do these guys want that? That's the other camp. The other camp is, at this point, the only way for any of these live guys to pick up any type of Ryder Cup or official World Golf Rankings points is either in one of the 4 majors.
Right.
They've got to play great in all the 4 majors.
Yep.
Or if they can play on some of these DP or other.
So you're
'cause
saying
the
there's
PGA
a
Tour is always
chance.
like, yeah. Basically, they're looking for those chances.
So you say there is a chance. Brooks Koepka could be on the USA Ryder Cup team.
And if you're the captain,
If he
and you
wins the
don't
next 2
pick-
majors and he pops up to 4th on the list,
That's the only
season
thing.
ends.
Theoretically, unless this is held by remember, the Ryder Cup is the PGA, not the PGA Tour.
Right.
Unless the PGA came out and said being on live disqualifies you from being in the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, that's the word we want to
But the
hear.
thing is, the PGA is letting them in the PGA Championship.
Right.
So they would be totally talking out of both sides of their mouth if they don't let them in. But the answer is yes. They need to play outstanding in the majors in order to get those
to
points,
get it,
because they don't have any other way to make
no
points.
captain's picking him.
I highly doubt it.
I can't see Zach Johnson grabbing Brooks, even though he's hot as anything, winning
that's
everything
why.
under
If
the
you
sun.
want to win the Ryder Cup, if your
He'll stick to his
goal is
ground.
to win the Ryder Cup,
Zach
you're
Johnson,
picking Brooks.
he'll never
because
let it down.
Brooks
They won't
is
let it.
competitive, and he's one of the best golfers in the world. You want Brooks on your team, no matter what.
Well, I mean, he showed us a lot at the Masters, but also don't forget on the U.S. side, there's a lot of guys that you could pick. You'd have to sit somebody else for Brooks. There's a lot of great.
Yeah,
Well,
but how many-
Zalatoris
how
is in
many
on the
of
list, and he's out. So
Zalatoris is out.
there's a spot open.
If you go just based on the Masters, there's no other American that you want than Brooks.
Yeah, but you can't joke just on the
Scheffler,
Masters.
Homa, Young, Spieth, Burns, Cantlay, Morikawa, JT, Schauffele, Kitayama, and Thigala are like the top 12 there.
I get that, but also you're talking about Brooks
I know.
Koepka, who always shows up for these big events.
and if it comes down to captain's picks, I guarantee Zach Johnson's taking a PGA Tour guy every time.
Well, that's just the thing, because if we go back, remember Stenson lost his captainship
because of it, right?
because he went to live. So there's definitely a certain underneath bias that I think if it came down to 2 guys in a captain's pick,
Yeah,
and I think he's going with the non-live guy.
of course, every time.
But who knows? I think we've got still a lot of months ahead of us. I think a lot of ways the way the live guys are, no, they didn't win. Like Koepka didn't win. It was good PR for them. How a bunch of them showed
think
up,
so.
Phil and the other guys to play well in the
There were
Masters.
no issues, no problems, no fights.
If they have 3 more majors that way, it might turn the tide of how a captain might think about it. But
Totally.
regardless, these guys right now, live is pure exhibition. They're not getting any points out of it. They're making money, but they're not getting any points or any official World Golf ranking. So these guys, all the cards, all their eggs are in the basket of the majors right
That's
now.
it. That's right.
Liv should get their own Ryder Cup team. It's U.S. versus Europe versus Liv.
Yeah, but the thing is, the
That'd be
PGA
so
Tour
funny.
would never.
No, obviously, but
Yeah.
it would just be
Yeah.
hilarious.
You-
I could see them doing
definitely
their own
break-
Ryder Cup of some sort.
I could see
within
that,
Liv,
but you would definitely break some pay-per-view and other records if you did a Live versus PGA Tour or whatever event.
no doubt.
But regardless, a lot remains to be seen. But that's yet another thing, and I'd be interested, as with everything, with you guys in the comments. Comment below. What did you think about the ruling being dropped on the first day of the Masters? Do you think that was intentional or coincidental? And what do you think as far as Reed's position to continue to chase it and litigate it as much as he can? There's a lot of, you could make arguments in both directions, so we'd love to hear about it. In the meantime, let's do a quick break for a word from our sponsors. Then I want to get back. I want to talk about Rory, which has been in the mix with these designated events. And I want to break down this designated event schedule because when I really looked at it,
I didn't realize how brutal it was.
It's shaping up to be pretty wild.
Yeah.
These guys are having to play a lot of golf.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do a quick break, do a word from our sponsors. We're going to hop right back into it. All right, guys, the hours have been put in, the work has been done, and as the moment approaches, you either fear it or you feel it. For Titleist, it's a moment filled with pure anticipation. It's a culmination of a relentless pursuit of speed in every form, so step up and settle in with confidence with the Titleist TSR. The new TSR drivers, they take everything that made the TSI the #1 driver on tour and pack even more performance into every head. In fact, I watched that little docu-series that they did. Incredible how they talked about things like even bringing in those aerodynamics, specialists, guys who worked at NASA and things like that to really refine that. And what they got from that was even more speed. You had that new face technologies, that CG improvements, aerodynamic refinements, as I was saying. And when everything moves the needle, you're playing at Titleist speed. Not to mention, you and I, talking about TSR, just got fit for the new TSR hybrids.
That's right.
Which were really incredible. You guys, we'll do a whole video on that really soon, so you can check that out. But we've been playing the TSR drivers for a few months now. Absolutely love them. Sure, you'll love them as well. So go to Titleist.com to learn more about the TSR metals. Make sure you schedule your fitting. Whenever we do these, we always get fit, and that's where we see some really incredible gains. So go check that out. Titleist TSR, find your faster.
All right, guys, the season's here. I know a lot of you are getting back out on the course. It's time to step up your footwear game. The all-new Hyperflex and Hyperflex Carbon shoes from FootJoy. Guys, these things are sick. I mean, they deliver hyper power, hyper control, and hyper fit for elite tour caliber performance. They're seriously powerful, but comfortable. I mean, that's important. They're comfortable shoes. You can walk around feeling great. Zach's going to throw me one. Look at these things. If you guys are watching this on YouTube or on Facebook, check this out. Look how pretty. Right? I mean, the color patterns, they come in multiple colors too. There's an all white. There's ones with some blue accents in it, but I love the pink. We love this. It's such a cool thing. Doubt. But, they keep you in place for hyper control. I mean, it's important because all FootJoy thinks about is how to design a shoe that helps you play better. Guys, this is equipment, whether you believe it or not. Shoes are golf equipment. They keep you dialed in with this hyper fit because a shoe that doesn't fit, it reduces your power input. I mean, and that's just a fact. So check out the new Hyperflex and the Hyperflex Carbon today. Go check it out at footjoy.com. We still have the best deal out there right now for Tommy John.
But it's going away soon.
It is going away soon.
Don't miss it.
So you have to act quickly. The Tommy John 360 underwear, we love it. It's our favorite collection. Feels like that second skin. And I'm going to tell you for all the reasons why we love it. They're comfortable to wear every single day. They have the mesh cooling zones with that contour pouch, the antimicrobial and the anti-odor technology, which is very important. That stay put waistband, it won't roll or bunch or pinch or all that. It just keeps it comfortable while you're playing golf, while you're at the gym, while you're running, jogging, whatever you're doing, you don't have to worry about it. They have the quick draw fly, horizontal fly, quick access. You got to relieve yourself. Nature calls. You can get there. Loads of color options. And they come in 4, 6, and 8-inch boxer brief inseams, and they size all the way up to 4XL. So you have no excuse. You will thank us, guys, when you order a pair. I promise you, you will. And like I said, it's the best deal out there. You got to use the code Golficity. That's GOLFICITY for 25% off your entire order. Like Frank said, hurry up because it is expiring. TommyJohn.com. Check it out.
All right, so let's dive back into this. So first of all, you had the RBC Heritage last week, which was I'm loving as a fan, as a spectator. I'm loving the designated events because I love these stacked leaderboards.
Yeah,
I mean, we saw it culminated in a great playoff. You had Spieth with that final putt, and Fitzpatrick was just sticking pins at the end. It feels almost like a major. And I think that that's what they wanted. They know that drives viewership. So I'm really impressed by that. And I love that. But the question that we have is it becoming a little bit too grueling on these guys? Are they pushing them a little bit too hard? Now, I get it. Everyone's going to say the argument and be like, how sorry. I can only cry so many tears for these guys. They're playing for $20 million every week. Right? I get it. And the money comes with the work.
Who's kicking in for the elevation purse? Is it the sponsor?
It's the sponsors.
So if next week is the Zurich's not kicking in the money, it's not a designated.
But here's the thing. I think what they're doing is year over year, they're going to alternate which ones are the designated so that certain ones don't just become like second tier events.
Gotcha. That's what I was
And
gonna
I think
ask.
it's basically like they're telling the sponsor, you're either in or you're out.
Mhm.
So they are making these sponsors pay more. The value proposition to the sponsors is you're going to have a stacked field and everyone's going to watch this event.
Yeah.
So more people watch, you get more bang for your
But
buck.
next year, maybe not, is what they're saying.
Well, no, they're saying like,
But
let's say-
RBC next year, you could be an $8 million
right next
event.
year, if you're not in an event, they're saying like, yeah, you don't have to pay as much.
We're just
as
letting you
that.
know. We're telling you. We're not,
I think
that's
they're
what it's-
basically
okay.
dictating it.
got it.
But because of this, in order to make this system work, the big names have to play in the events. Now,
Yep.
Rory was a big part of structuring this. Remember the players' meetings that they did and things like the Tiger and all these guys?
Sure.
Rory was a big part of this. Rory's been one of the biggest champions of it.
Mm-hmm.
And Rory goes and misses this week, missing his second designated event of the season. Now, in the deal, these guys were only allowed to miss one designated event. Because Rory missed this, he now misses out on 25% of his player incentive program deal. So it literally cost Rory $3 million to miss the event last week.
Yeah.
Now, as you were saying at the top of the show, we haven't heard anything official from Rory of why he decided to skip the event. He did miss the cut at the Masters the week before. Could there be a little bit of an injury? I don't know. I would think if there was, he would have said something.
I think it's mental. I even think I heard some announcers say like he called up Bob Rotel. He's trying to get his head right. And maybe he was just like, I need to just shelf the game right now. I don't care what it's going to cost me. This is me speculating. I don't know.
Could be. But look, Rory proved to us, like at the end of last year when he out of nowhere won the FedEx Cup. I remember he was saying even he didn't believe that his game was there. And all of a sudden things just clicked.
Yeah.
So things may come back together for him. But a lot of the other players kind of weighed in. I remember like Joel Damon was saying like, basically I feel like Rory was leading the charge on the changes that have been made and helped make the rules. He knew what the rules are. So he knew what was coming. He also has so much money. He doesn't care about the $3 million. That's about the fact that he's missing out on $3 million. I forget who the other guy was. I saw another quote from somebody else in the field. I think it was Schauffele who was saying like it was a little bit ironic. Yeah, here you go. Xander Schauffele says rules are rules. So, I mean, for the most part, a lot of what he wanted is what's happening. The irony is that he's not here. And by that, he means what he wanted and what a lot of the guys want was what we got at the RBC, which was like a killer event to watch with a huge field. But then Rory wasn't there. So that was a weird one.
Dare I ask why Tiger doesn't have to be there?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, right?
Well, that's a great question. Is Tiger going to miss his whole? He was the winner of the pit.
Right, but why is he not supposed to be at these designated events?
Great question.
That's the best question that we've asked on this podcast.
Yeah.
Why? Has anyone ever asked that yet?
I-
Or is Monahan just like Tiger? We know you got your limitations. You come and go as you please. That's probably what it is.
I wonder if that's it. I wonder if, as with a lot of things with the tour, there are injury exemptions.
Because what is Tiger do? I hate to say this, but what is he doing for the tour right now? Are they showing up to the 4 events that aren't owned by the PGA Tour only?
He played the Genesis.
And the Genesis because
Which
it was
is
his
his
host event.
Right.
And probably he will be in the Bahamas for the Hero. Might play it, might not.
Didn't play it last
That's
year.
it.
But you're right. The 4 majors are not PGA Tour events. So the question could be said, what is Tiger doing for the tour if he's not playing?
What's Tiger doing for the game?
What's Tiger doing for me today? Poor guy's got screws coming out of his leg. Did you hear that
Yeah,
one?
that's nuts, dude. That's nuts.
Jason Day said one of the screws was coming out.
Oh,
But
Through his skin, not
Just had
just
a
coming
chill
like
down my
out of the
spine.
bone or anything.
casual.
It was stabbing through his
was this during the
foot
Masters?
during the PGA.
Oh, that's
Last
right.
year.
At Southern Hills, yes.
Yes.
Right.
Which is disgusting to even think about.
yeah.
But,
Kick him off the tour, Doug.
Kick him off.
Tiger should be at every event, every designated event.
oh my God. That's just, there's too many jokes that can come out
Yeah,
of that.
of
But
course.
I think that to answer your question, although I don't know specifically, I would imagine it's because people are and on the tour are aware of Tiger's injury and are not forcing him to play it
Right.
because why would you want to lose him for even longer? Does this
And the
mean
reason-
that he forfeits his PIP? That's a great question. I don't know.
And I'm wondering,
Maybe.
Tiger's the last guy on earth who matters.
The
if he
purses
misses
are where
out
they
on
are
12
because of him
million,
anyway.
but- right, exactly.
So I'm sure the players don't care.
Yeah.
I feel like with Rory, there's got to be something going on in the background that he's not saying, whether it's a family emergency, whether it's injury, something like that. I can't imagine he would just skip this event outright because he didn't play well at the Masters. After all that he's been saying these last couple months, I just don't see it happening like that. And I think over the next couple weeks, something will come out and he is going to have some sort of exemption and he's not going to get his pit money taken away. I almost guarantee
I wonder if it's too late. I think, honestly, it was just meant. I think the guy is just like, I just missed the cut at the event I wanted to win most this year and mentally prepared to win the most this year. Right. I'm embarrassed with myself.
It could be like, but just taking a little mental health break. He could be.
But we would have seen that, though, I feel like. I feel like he would have come out and said something along the lines of,
you're right.
He should have by now.
You think he would, but on the same token, like there's two things. There's one, like actively putting out a statement.
That's why I think there's more going on in this story.
But what I mean is like where you may still hear it is like what Mike was saying. There's a difference between like actively putting out a statement to the press versus the next time you're in front of the press and get the question. It's totally possible. The next time he plays and he's got to do the press conference, they ask him, why'd you miss the RBC? And he might come out then, I had to take a mental health break. Whatever it may be.
Imagine he showed up in Australia and joined Live. Would that shake the entire golf world like no other? Talk about a bomb drop. It'll never happen.
Rory's got 2 Rolexes, one on each hand. Just like
they paid him $800 million. Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like ultimately, like we'll see. But the optics for right now aren't great on a guy who championed it so much and then was not.
It looks bad.
It was not there. And then Tiger hits his own story. I mean. He's just not as healthy as he can't get in there and play every week.
He can't be there. There's enough, but you know what? And even John Rahm, that whole situation has poured the gasoline on the Rory fire,
right?
Because now he looks like the poster child for the PGA Tour.
Exactly,
it's been a switch of profile.
And to give you a little backdrop on that, like traditionally, if you win the Masters, traditionally you withdraw from the next week's event, and it's largely because these guys go on a media
circus.
They go on all the late night shows. They do all that type of stuff.
Right.
Rahm still went and played the RBC, and I thought his quote was just fantastic. And I was a Rahm fan before, but now I'm even more endeared to the guy because he said, I think about those kids who bought tickets and were going that week because they wanted to see the Masters champ play. I'm not going to disappoint them. And after that grueling week winning the Masters and all the press he did, he still went and played. And there was another funny quote saying how much he's just as addicted to the game as the rest of us. Even when I go to take a day off, I'm paraphrasing here, I'll be chipping by the afternoon.
Right.
He's like, he's so addicted. But this is what the PGA Tour, this is quickly becoming the PGA Tour darling. Rahm goes out there, plays, not only plays, after his round, he jumps in the booth, puts the things on, and he's doing some of the broadcast.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There's a guy who
all in.
Yeah, all in, and I think he's a great face for the game. I think he's a great role model for kids in a lot of ways because he shows his emotions. He shows his fiery side.
He does show it.
It's like
we should start
in a lot of ways.
You're absolutely right, and we should petition to get John Rahm on the show. Start the petition now, everyone. Let's go.
Fantastic. But that's what I mean. Like I thought that, and you're right. That served as this kind of counterpoint to Rory not being there. Now I don't want to immediately take anything away from Rory. Rory has been there and stood up for the tour and stuff like that things a lot of ways. And no matter what side of the live argument you're on, I think in a way you have to respect the fact that he's willing to put his voice to it. But it seemed so counter to all that when he sat this week out. But let's quickly talk about this schedule because I guess you could very much make an argument that the number of designated events and the way they have them played could be burning these guys out a little bit.
Yeah, you said there was a lot
of rest. Right? So you've already had, 5 or 6 designated events?
6 events, started with the first one of the season, the Century, and we just had a back-to-backer, if you want the Masters followed by the RBC.
And when we say designated event, we're talking about the events with the bigger purse where these guys have to play as far as being in that leaderboard. They can only miss one.
Correct.
And we're not talking about the majors. Because the majors
we're not talking about the majors.
Tour. So we've already had one major. We've had all those designated events.
I believe the Players was also an elevated.
It was. Yes, you're right. Elevated event too. That's what they're calling it, right?
Designated. My bad.
Designated
with an elevated purse.
Whatever it is.
However you want to treat it.
Looking forward at the schedule, there is not much break here. So you've got the Zurich this week, which is the team event.
Frank's favorite.
My favorite event, right?
Go
I
back
don't
to
know.
older episodes to find out why.
I just
being
feel
sarcastic,
like
of course.
it can be fun, but it's not always the most
You feel it's a little gimmicky?
watched event with the teams
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's not the most to watch.
I think this week the Zurich has one of the coolest stories in golf. If it happens, Fitzpatrick is playing with his brother, his I believe younger brother, who plays on the Corn Ferry Tour.
Yeah, sure.
And if they end up winning, he'll effectively secure his brother a PGA Tour card,
How cool
and that
is
would be
that?
so cool.
That would be pretty insane.
I'd like to see George and Wesley playing that if they can ever do that. The Bryan brothers.
That would be sick.
That would be cool.
That'd be cool. But I don't think George is on tour to
And
do
the
that.
vlog to come off of that
Yeah.
would be
Yeah.
sweet.
That would be something.
So what do we got? So the
So you
Zurich's
got
a week off.
You got the Zurich for some people. Come on, a week off.
No, for a lot of people, there isn't going to be that much of a stacked field.
Schauffele and
You'll see.
Cantlay are the defending champs.
They are the biggest names, I think. There.
And then, so you got the Zurich. These are not designated events. The Zurich and the Mexico Open. John Rahm though is the what do you call it? The reigning champ for the Mexico Open.
So he'll be
you
back
might
to play.
see Rahm play in that.
Yeah.
So that's the next 2 weeks. But
Awesome.
then listen to this, the pace of this, right? You've got the Wells Fargo, which is at Quail Hollow.
That's always got a nice stacked field.
Designated event,
Yep.
$20 million purse.
Yep.
Week after that, you have the AT&T Byron Nelson, which is not a designated this year.
Mm-hmm.
So some guys, because of this grueling schedule, I'm guaranteed will sit that one out. Then you back that up with the PGA Championship, which they're going to play.
Yeah.
Right? Then you have the Charles Schwab, non-designated, but the Memorial designated event.
Of course, Jack's
Now we're
place.
going to go every other week, right? The RBC Canadian Open,
Nothing.
non-designated, US Open, they're going to all play in it. US Open then backs up with the Travelers Championship, which is a designated event.
Coast to coast to coast.
But let me,
Do you think they're doing that to not have the week after majors be low viewership? Do you think?
I think you're right.
Because now
It
they're
could be.
2 for 2 designated events right the weekend after
Yes.
majors.
Because you
So-
would get this major hangover, right? Like where people
Imagine
wouldn't
you got to
watch
go
it.
from LA to the Travelers. That's a haul.
But that's the thing. I want to talk about that back and forth. But the
Yeah.
one thing I will say is that after the Travelers, though, the designated events calm down. I think you're going to hit a little lull in the schedule because you've got
You
the
do.
Rocket Mortgage, the John Deere, the Barbasol, which is also the week of the Scottish Open. And a lot of guys will go overseas to prep for the Open Championship.
Yep.
You got the Barracuda, which is an alternate event for the most part, the Open Championship, and then you got the 3M Open. No more designated events in all of July until we get back to the FedEx Cup, which the FedEx Cup that starts off with the FedEx St. Jude Championship is the next, I guess.
So
you call
why
it
are they
designated.
saying the RSM is going to be super important for guys to secure their card? Because that's the last opportunity
It's probably because it's the last opportunity.
before this new fall thing kicks off.
But listen to this. Let's
That's
say
a
you're
whole
one of
nother
your.
conversation.
Let's say you're one
Yeah.
of the top tier guys who needs to play in these things,
Mm.
and this is what your schedule becomes. It becomes Wells Fargo in North Carolina. Let's say you take the next week off. You're Byron Nelson. Then you're going to New York, to Rochester to play in the PGA Championship. You've got the Charles Schwab the week after. So this one is, Zach, to answer your question, there is one. There's no designated event the week after that major. So maybe not.
So the Schwab, they'll just chill. That's usually in Texas.
Right. Then you've got the Memorial Tournament, which is in Ohio.
Everyone will be there for that.
Some guys, even though it's not designated, remember Rory is the reigning champ here. Some guys will go to Toronto to play the RBC Canadian Open. I'm thinking Rory. Think about he is the case in point.
And he can't miss anything.
He can't miss any more designated events. Rory would probably play in Ohio for the Memorial. Next week, shoot up to the RBC Canadian Open in Toronto. Then the following week, you got talk about time zone change. You got to shoot over to LA to play in the US Open. And the week after that, you're coming back to Connecticut to play in another designated event in the Travelers. That's a rough month right there.
Probably explains why he took this past week off.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm wondering, like, if he's thinking, like, A, I got to get my head straight. B, the
Yeah, I
amount
got to
of
get my stuff
travel,
together for this stretch.
You're away from your family.
No.
And this is like, I get it. The argument a lot of people made about Live and like the schedule.
Yeah.
In the PGA Tour, in order to compete with Live, is creating a scenario that could be very difficult
It's
for
grueling.
these guys.
So does Rory have to cut the PGA Tour a check for $3 million?
No,
has that already been paid
He
out
doesn't.
to
I
him?
think he just doesn't collect on it. I think it's not paid out. A lot of these are paid out like slowly.
Annuities, yeah. Mhm.
But keep this in mind. Just keeping Rory as the case. Rory's got the difficult decision to make in June, right? Of either sitting out the RBC, where he's the defending champ, and no one's going to like that.
Not after what Rom said.
Right.
He's
no
not
one's
going to
like that.
Assume he's there. Go
he
ahead.
either has to sit that out.
He's not missing that.
Or he basically has to play everything. Because it goes designated event.
He's not going to miss Jack's place. Yep. He's not going to miss the
U.S.
RBC.
Open, he would never miss.
Not going to miss it.
Travelers
I could see him pull out of that. That's a coast-to-coast 3-week stretch.
What I'm saying is if he pulls out, he pulled out of a third
Another $3 million.
Event. Yes. It'll cost him $3 million more.
And the backlash. Let's see how he recovers from this backlash, and then we'll get a better picture if he dares to pull out of another one again.
And I get what a lot of people, they'll make the argument these guys fly private jets. They do all those type of stuff.
It's still
grueling to me to go from
time zone changes.
To go Ohio, Toronto, Los Angeles, Connecticut, all in the same month, week after week.
And golf tournaments are full weeks for them because they're on the course as soon as they get there Monday through Sunday.
Yeah.
And they're getting on a plane and doing it again.
Right. Assuming they make the cut, they're there all week.
Yep.
And then plus the prep that goes into the U.S. Open. I wouldn't even be surprised if some of these guys are flying back and forth and just trying to preview the course and playing Los Angeles Country Club.
Yeah.
So now you're just all over the place.
Now you're all over the place.
But the way that they stacked it, I tell you, and I wouldn't be surprised if you get more pushback from more players.
You will.
That they got to raise this maximum. It can't be just you can only miss one designated per year. I think these guys are going to say, you got to build it in where we can miss 2 or 3 designated events.
Yeah.
But then do they become as much pull? If you have the option for these guys to miss it, don't forget the whole idea behind the designated event, the elevated purse. Because now who's going to push back next is the sponsors who are going to say, I'm not putting $20 million up if these guys aren't there.
Yeah, that's right. And look what these guys are getting. 4th place last week at $1 million.
Yeah.
In the non-designated events, that's lucky if they scratch 150,000.
Right.
It's a big payday difference.
It's a big payday. But what do you guys think about that schedule? Do you think it's too grueling? Do you think maybe we're just, we're giving them too much slack that these guys are pros flying private? They should be able to handle this. I don't know. I just wonder if there's a certain degree of burnout there. And especially when I look at a weeks like that, where you're just like, you're all over the place back and forth. It's not like just like the LA or the California, the Florida swing where you're there for a couple of weeks. Now you're going here. And
you're all over the map.
And you're still probably recovering from, or actually you're prepping yourself to go overseas
over the pond. Open. I know.
And I would
the FedEx Cup playoffs didn't even happen yet.
Right. The FedEx Cup playoffs kick off 2 weeks, 3 weeks after the
and by the way, the Ryder Cup's right after that. Right. In Italy. It's like, yeah, it's a tough year.
I could see a lot of people end up, obviously I don't want this to happen, but I could see a lot of people having injuries very similar to Zalatoris, where something goes wrong in their back because they're playing back to back
You'll see more
weeks
with
a lot of travel. I just don't necessarily think it's the best thing for the tour. And if you want the best play from these athletes at these designated events and at the majors, then you're going to have to give them some more time to rest and recover.
Who says they have to play every week? Why do we have to have a tournament every week?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just the nature of the tour for so long. But it does bring up a point. The other thing, too, is how long the schedule is grueling. Don't forget, the schedule goes from January, the first week in January, which is the first designated event.
I thought the schedule started the year before. I thought it starts
now.
I'm thinking calendar year, but you're right. With the wraparound schedule, you can make the argument it never ends. But I'm saying for your top tier players who are playing in the designated events, at the very least, they got to play the first week in January. They're playing through the Tour Championship, which is the end of August. And then they're prepping for the Ryder Cup in September. So they're playing their what I would consider their full on season from January until September.
Yeah. And some of them won't even be able to get the break after that, because that's what I was saying before. When the fall season starts, that's the season where a lot of people are going to be forced to play to keep their card.
Right, which starts effectively with in September with the Fortinet Championship.
Exactly.
And then you got Sanders and Farm, Shriners, Zozo.
I wouldn't be surprised if these live guys continue posting really good results in majors, because they're not going to be playing as much. They're going to be rested. Their games are going to be dialed in.
You'll see,
And the PGA Tour guys, they're going to be tired. They're going to be worn out potentially.
And you're gonna, if it stays that grueling, I think what you're gonna get is you're gonna get a lot of talk about whoever wins this year is who stays healthy. I think of it in football. the team that stays the healthiest often is like the ones that make it to the playoffs.
Right.
It could be the same thing. But interesting stuff. There's a lot going on. So let us know in the comments what you guys think about that. Think about the schedule. Are you liking the Disney event? Do you think it's too much for these guys? Let us know, and keep following along with that world long drive, because it's just going to keep going back and forth. And I'm very interested to see if we've got a place where we're going to plateau, or if these guys are going to keep leveling each other up.
We got to go to the.
I'm going to throw my towel in the ring.
Okay, sure. Mike today posted 156 ball speed.
Just ball speed, guys. Yeah.
We got to go to that World Championship, because I think it would be the coolest thing ever, seeing those guys.
It'd be cool to
hit
see
those
in
long
person,
balls
yeah.
in person.
I would love to see it in person myself. It's wild stuff. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Weigh in the comments, and we'll see you next week.